Just screw the THERABAND elastic resistance band and tubing overhead accessory kit. Basically, this is for someone who uses THERABAND a lot for their exercises. Normally with THERABAND, you don't really need a lot of this kind of extra stuff, just doing the basic exercises. You can tie one end of the THERABAND to a door or a chair, or you can tie it in a circle, tie the two ends together, and then you can, just use two arms to pull against each other. So there are good ways to use it without this set. However, getting this set will greatly expand the amount of exercises you're able to do. So that's one thing you want to consider. So if you're a big THERABAND fan, you use it a lot, this is a good kit to have. Let me go over a couple things. Basically, you get three things in this set. You get the two handles, you get the door ankle, and you get the THERABAND assist strap. Let me go over a couple of these things. So the door anchor, basically, you don't have to tie your THERABAND anymore to like a door handle or a chair leg or something. Basically, you tie the end of your THERABAND here, and then this goes in your door. And then you close the door, and then this little thing at the round thing keeps it in place. So the door ankle is really useful because then you can just, put it in the door, shut the door, and now you can pull against it without having to worry about tying things. So here again, this is where you tie one end of the THERABAND. Now, the other end of the THERABAND, anybody who's used THERABAND a lot, sometimes, when you pull on it, it gets thinner because you're stretching it. And so it's kind of hard to grip, and sometimes it can become uncomfortable. Well, they've overcome this problem by having these handles. Well, basically the THERABAND attaches here, and you can also attach the other end over here to the door anchor if you want to. But here again, this is going to give you, or you can have two of them, a THERABAND connected to two of the handles for an easier grip. So here again, this is all about increasing, the comfort, of pulling on the THERABAND. So yeah, I think if you use THERABAND a lot, this is a good little kit to have. Now THERABAND, it's all about strengthening, not range of motion. So there are some key things you really want to strengthen, especially if you're let's say you're rehabilitating your shoulder, like a lot of people are. Let me go over a few things you really want to look at. Bulletproof your shoulder is where I'm getting this stuff from. Basically, let's see here. I'll show you a few things that you can do. It's really helpful. Okay, so if you have a shoulder problem, you do want to strengthen, but there's some specific strengthening to do, creating a highly stable joint. So your shoulder is a very shallow ball and socket joint, so it depends heavily on the muscles to keep it in place. And of all the muscles that keep it in place, it's your rotator cuff that does that. That's why rotator cuff strengthening is so important with any kind of shoulder problem. This is on the ball and socket joint of your shoulder is very shallow, and it's different than, say, like your hip. Your hip is a very deep ball and socket joint, so it stays in place rather easily without muscles holding it together. But the shoulder is different. Like, think of it, you hear a lot more about dislocated shoulders than you do dislocated hips. And that's because it's just such a shallow joint. So here again, rotator cuff strengthening is one thing you really want to do with any kind of shoulder problem, because you need to get shoulder stability in that joint. Especially if you have something like impingement syndrome or bursitis, or even like if you have a acromioclavicular arthritis. Getting good rotator cuff strength and keeping that ball firmly in its place can go a long way in solving a lot of shoulder problems. So step 2, building a solid base. So even if you have a good shoulder joint stability with a ball and socket joint, the shoulder does operate on a base, and the base is your scapula or your shoulder blade. So even, like I say, even if you have a strong rotator cuff, you're going to have to, you want to make sure that the base that your shoulder operates on is solid. And that's because a lot of times with people with impingement syndrome, the problems with the scapular muscles, it just isn't holding this in place very well, and you don't have good control over your shoulder blade. So this is definitely something you want to do if you have a shoulder problem. You want to work your scapular muscles, the stabilizers. And this will show you some exercises for that. Flexibility is also something. So you can have a really strong shoulder, but if you can only move it a few degrees, what good is your arm, So really you need to be have a lot of flexibility in your shoulder. There's actually 4 critical motions that you need for your shoulder to optimally function. And this will go over that, just like 4 stretches. The last thing, if you have a shoulder problem that you really want to beef up, is your proprioception. Proprioception is your position sense. So they're finding now that a lot of people with shoulder problems, they actually have problems with their proprioception. Now that's knowing where your joint and your arm is. Like for instance, watching this video now, you know if your arm is like up in the air or if it's down or if it's out to the side. And that's because of those little joint receptors, there's special nerves in the joint that tell you the position, to give you feedback to your brain as to the position of your joint. And that's how you know that. That's why in the dark, you can put your hand in your pocket and you can, pull out a quarter as opposed to a penny. And that's because of your proprioception. You can kind of know where your fingers are and that kind of thing. So proprioception is actually something up and coming that they're finding that people with shoulder problems have difficulty with. So just a few more tools for your toolbox. But yeah, if you're a big THERABAND fan, I think this is a great kit to get. So yeah, definitely check